Guys, how are you? Nice to see so many of you join. Okay, it's 1 o'clock, so I'm going to get started. So my name's Laura. I'm a registered dietitian and a health writer, and this is part 2 of a 3-part series about healthy home snacking. And we started this. I started this series with SportsShoes.com because obviously with the change now and us all staying at home, lots of people were reporting that their eating habits have really changed, and they were finding that they were snacking a lot more than normal and feeling really guilty about it. And in the last session we talked about leaving that guilt at the door. Don't want you to feel guilty about snacking, but we talked about making choices that can support your mood and energy levels at this time. So this is what the series is all about, really. Hi guys. So in the last session I shared my top tips for hacking your home snacking. You can go and watch that. I think it's on the Sports Shoes IGTV. But just as a quick reminder, my first tip was just to check in with yourself, because quite often, particularly now there's lots of emotions flying around and we're all feeling lots of different things, and during this pandemic food can become a bit of a source of comfort or distraction, particularly if we're working from home and procrastinating. So my first top tip was just to check in with yourself when you're going to snack. Am I hungry, or perhaps am I feeling just bored or in need of a break perhaps, and sort of seeing if you could offer yourself something else if that is the case. My second top tip was to think about the environment that you're in. So our environment really affects our food choices. So if you've got a fruit bowl on the table, you're much more likely to eat fruit. If you open the cupboard and see some healthy snacks at the front, you're much more likely to choose those. So think about switching your cupboards and fridge up, so it really encourages those healthy choices. My third top tip was to prep. So I said that taking 5 or 10 minutes just at the beginning of the day to prep some healthy snacks that you can dive into when you are feeling hungry is really great, because it means that basically the hungrier we get, the less wise our food decisions seem to get as well. So having something on hand is a really good thing. My fourth top tip was to combine foods containing either some protein or some fibre, because those two nutrients can help us feel fuller for longer, which is part of my recipe today. So my recipe today really combines 2 of those tips. So first of all, prepping ahead. So this is a snack recipe that you can prep ahead, keep in the fridge. It also freezes nicely as well in individual portions. And it is a recipe that combines a couple of foods which are a good source of fibre as well. Okay, so the recipe that I'm sharing today is pressed fruit and nut bars, and they're no bake ones. So you're going to be, as soon as you see how easy these are to make, I'm sure you're never going to buy them again. But they're very similar to if you've ever bought like an energy ball from the shop, or I can't give any brand names, but if you've ever bought those pressed fruit and nut bars that they're kind of all squished together, that's exactly what we're going to be making today. And they are really delicious. I eat them quite a lot as well. But they can be quite expensive, and also you might not be able to get hold of them at the moment because you're not able to go to the shops as much, or perhaps they're not in stock. So I thought I'd teach you how to make your own. So what you will need is just 2 basic ingredients. So the first one is dates, and the second one is cashew nuts, and you're going to need 200 grams of each. Now this is going to make, I'm going to make something about the size of this. But if you want to make a larger amount, so maybe you're baking for a family, or there's lots of you at home, then you can double the ingredients and make more like a square tin. So just a quick note on some alternatives, and we're going to be sharing the recipe on the Sports Shoes blog. If you can't get dates, or if you don't have dates, perhaps you don't like dates, you can use any dried fruit really. So you could use figs, you could use raisins, you could use prunes, or you could use a mix of those kind of dried fruits, okay? And if you don't have cashews, almonds work really well, or you could do a mixture of almonds and cashews, or if you had a bag of mixed nuts, you could use those as well. But you're going to be needing 200 grams of each. I really like this combo together, which is why I've chosen these. So that's your base ingredients, and then you basically need something to help it stick together. So you can easily use water, and I'm going to give you a trick about that in a minute, or something sticky like tahini. We used this last week. It's sesame seed paste, or peanut butter, or a little bit of like melted coconut oil would work as well. And that's really all you need. But I did say that you might want to add some flavorings as well. So you could add orange zest, you could add vanilla essence, you could add some chocolate chips if you wanted. You could add some cocoa powder, or you could do like a cocoa and orange zest if you like, so kind of cocoa orange. I don't know if you can buy mint essence, but if you could have a kind of like cocoa mint version. So yeah, the flavourings are totally optional. You don't have to add them, but they are a nice touch. Okay. So I should add that I'm going to be using a mixer. That's what you'll need for this as well. Now you can see here. So I live in quite a small flat, and it's only me. So I have tiny versions of everything. So I'm actually going to show you how to make this in a really tiny blender. But you can always do it in a large blender if you've got a large kind of food processor. You could probably also make it in a NutriBullet as well, I think. But because I've got a small one, I'm going to kind of do it in two parts, but I'll talk you through this. So the first thing you need to do is basically smash up all your dried fruit, okay? Now, you remember I said that we needed something to stick together. So what I actually just did before we came, I started this live, was I soaked my dates in water, hot water. I just boiled a kettle and soaked them in water for about 5 minutes, and then I just drained them, and this actually softens them, allows them to soak up a little bit of water and makes them squishy. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop my dates into my mixer. There's just a tiny bit of liquid there that I'm going to pop in as well. And I'm also, what else am I going to put in? Just to help with the sticky process. I feel like every time I come close to you, I've got a white halo. That I'm just going to put a little bit of, literally just a drizzle of tahini in as well, just to help with the sticking process. I'm going to have to whiz now, so you're going to have to excuse me while that goes on. Now what you're going to need to do as well is just grab a spatula and just kind of come around the sides and scrape the sides down a bit. And you can also, if you feel like it's not getting sticky enough or you didn't soak your dates, just add a bit of water in now at this point as well. Now if you've got a big blender, this will be even easier, and it'll probably be done within 10-20 seconds, I guess. But yeah, I'm showing you like the worst case scenario probably. So what you're going to be left with now is just kind of like a sticky paste, and that's exactly what you want. So I'm now going to empty this into a bowl. If you were making this in a big blender, then you would just be able to continue. You could just add the nuts on top. But because I've got a small blender, I'm just going to empty it out. Okay, so the next thing you're going to need to do is put the nuts in. So I've already weighed these. So I know that it's 200 grams, but I'm just going to pop them in as well. Okay, and again, you're just going to smash up the nuts with the food processor. And you might need to give it just a bit of a bash down. To look kind of like breadcrumbs, really, is probably a good description. I'm just going to give you a look. So there you go. You crushed the nuts, and then you're going to put those into your date mixture. Now, if you are using flavourings, this is the time that you will add them. So I really like orange, so I'm going to put some orange zest in. Literally going to use an orange and a grater. And I'm just going to grate some orange zest into the bowl. And as I said, you don't have to flavour them at all. Maybe the first time you try them without. Maybe put chocolate chips in. Vanilla's nice. I don't know if you had some other essences that you've been baking with in your cupboard, you might want to put those in. Okay, now the next bit is basically smushing it all together. Now, if you had a food processor, you might find that by the time you've smushed all your nuts in, it's already forming a paste. I basically want it to be almost like a ball of dough, I guess. I don't have, my food processor isn't big enough, so I'm literally going to do it by hand. And because I've got plasters all over my hands from falling over when I was running earlier, I'm going to just mix it together with my hands. But yeah, it's a bit sticky, but it's going to come together quite quickly. So it's a bit like baking bread now. I'm just literally smushing everything together. You might be able to hear my dishwasher going in the background. It's quite noisy. Okay, and that just comes together really, really easily. So I'm going to give you a look now at what it looks like. It looks like a big ball of dough. But yeah, it might look like that in your mixer, and if it has, that's great. You won't need to do the mixing bit. And then what you're going to need to do is line a tray, and it just helps it to pop out easily after you've set it. And I just use some grease-proof paper, so I'm just going to use that to just line the bottom. Then I'm literally going to take this, your ball of pressed fruit and nuts, and I'm literally just going to press it into the tin using my hands. If you are using your bare hands, a good tip, because it can be quite sticky, this mixture, is just to put a bit of water on your hands, and you'll actually find that it just allows you to press it into the tin really easily. Just going to try and show you what I'm doing. I'm literally making a cake with my hands. So you want to press it out, and you want it to be quite even, because that's going to really help. You can always sort of smooth a spoon over the top, but yeah, very quick. As you can see, this is literally taking me minutes. So let me just give you a look now. That's what it looks like. Okay, and effectively you're done now. So all you have to do now is pop it in the fridge. I normally pop it in the fridge for about an hour, but yeah, equally I made some yesterday just to test out, and I left it in overnight, and you'll actually be storing these in the fridge as well, so you can leave it in there for longer or until you're ready to cut it. Somebody's asked, how many portions will you get out of this recipe? It depends how big you want your bars to be. So I'm going to do a bit of a Blue Peter now and show you. Here's one I made earlier. So let me just pour it in. Okay. So as I said, I made these yesterday. I just left them in the fridge overnight. And so you're literally, when after you've left them for at least an hour, but maybe a bit longer, you'll literally just be able to pull it out, and it's going to be like a flat cake, and then you can just cut it into bars. So I like cutting them into bars like this because they look a bit like the ones that I buy normally, but you might want to cut them into squares, or you might want to, the other thing I was going to say is, like, if you don't want to press it into a tray, or you don't have a tray, you can just roll it into balls. So you might probably put that mixture into maybe 8 or 10 even sized pieces, and you could then just roll them, and you could have them as energy balls rather than energy bars. That would work absolutely fine as well. And then they keep really nicely once you've cut them up. I'm sure you want to try them straight away, but then they keep really nicely in the fridge. You just have to pop them in like a plastic container, or a tin, any kind of container really, just make sure it's covered. And they'll keep in there for a week or so, but you could also freeze them. So if you wanted to wrap them, I'd probably maybe wrap them in greaseproof, or maybe freeze them on an open tray, so otherwise they'll stick together, and then you can wrap them individually afterwards. But they are a super source of energy because they've got the natural sugars from the dates, because you've got the nuts in there as well. That just helps to kind of slow down the energy release, and keep your energy levels on an even keel. But maybe good to have before you go play sport, or go for a run. So that's it. I told you it was very simple, didn't I? I'm sure I haven't even been speaking for the full 15 minutes. But I hope you enjoyed that recipe. I hope it's inspired you to try it at home, because it's super easy. It's actually quite fun to make with children as well, if you've got little ones at home. So we will be posting the recipe of this and all the alterations and suggestions on the Sports Shoes blog. And if you do make your own, please do tag myself and Sports Shoes. We would love to see your creations. And I think in 2 weeks' time, I'll be joining you guys again for the third instalment of this healthy snacking series. It's been really lovely to spend a bit of time with you this lunchtime. I hope you all have a really lovely weekend, and I'll see you soon.